Ask the Podcast Coach for March 31st, 2018.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is, that fun-filled music that means it's Saturday morning. It means it's 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach. I'm your host, Dave Jackson from the schoolofpodcasting.com. And this is where you get your podcast questions answered live. And I'm lucky enough to be joined by the one and only, don't be fooled by cheap imitations, wearing a giant G on his shirt today. The one and only G. It's GM Collison.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Welcome. Happy Saturday morning to you, Dave. Home Gadget Geeks. I figured I ought to probably wear my own shirt at least once in a while. I don't know if I've ever.
Hilarious, because I'm wearing a School of Podcasting shirt.
Boom. We didn't even coordinate it, but thanks to Addie for her help in getting us up on an Amazon store. And it sits in my drawer, and I just don't wear it very much. I should probably wear it.
And you'd be glad to know I just hit record.
Oh, nicely done.
I missed like the first
at least the YouTube records for it.
We were talking before, you know what I haven't done yet, and I'll do right now. If you want to come out and ask a question, it's super easy. Just go out to askthepodcastcoach.com/live. And what I'm trying to do is add the link for askthepodcastcoach.com/join, because we were talking before we started today and I got sidetracked. And plus I was just happy that my video was working compared to last week's, which was great fun.
Well, that was kind of a nightmare last week. How'd the audio turn out in the edit?
Not as bad as I thought. And what I did, because I was working on it last night, and for the record, I'm basically almost all caught up, because I looked up and I was like, man, I'm like almost 3 weeks behind. I'm like, you got to get your butt in gear. So that's all I did last night. I listened to from 7 o'clock till about 11:30. I was doing nothing but Ask the Podcast Coach stuff. Whether it was, if you go to askthepodcastcoach.com/join, you can join in on the call right here, even if you're in your jammies. We do prefer that you have clothes on. That's always a little awkward.
I've contemplated going shirtless, but I'm not sure anybody wants to see that.
But yeah, I was just between. At one point, I was laughing because I was off phonicking. That's even a verb. Some audio while I was exporting some post-show video, and my computer was just going. It's just like, I'm keeping up, but what are you doing to me? And because I was trying to just multitask the whole time, just to get caught up. We do have a question from Mike Moody, and we did find out something this morning that is really annoying. You can't copy and paste from Facebook Messenger. So
yeah, I still doubt that. I don't know, Dave.
When I highlight it, the minute I let go of my mouse, okay, now it's working, of course.
Yeah, I think it must have been something.
Right.
You must have had something else going on.
I think I found that you can't highlight multiple. Is that it? That's it. Because he said something, then I replied, then he said something that I had copied. I was trying to copy multiple conversations. So here's the original question. It says, hey, Dave, this is again from Mike Moody. I'm looking for an interface with 4 mic preamps /inputs. We're assuming those are XLR, that will last and is under $600. And so that's the fun. It's almost like there's a train traveling 18 miles from Poughkeepsie going east, and we want it to last. And it's like, that's the criteria that makes it fun. Could we recommend something or just talk about what to look for when shopping? I'm wanting to learn what a good mic preamp is and how to make sure my interface has them. The application is podcast recording up to 4 people in a room. So that's what he's doing. He doesn't say it's, is Mike in the chat room by any chance? Maybe that's why he sent it in last night, because he wasn't going to be here. Because the one thing is it's in a room. It's another one is it's in a room and it's portable kind of thing.
And he's not interested in a mixer.
See, that's the other question.
It said audio interface. So let's stick to that for now.
Because you can go Zoom H6. There's 4 interfaces.
4 inputs under the H6.
Yeah.
What's the retail on those?
That is a great question. Survey says as he goes out to.
I also have the audio box from PreSonus. If you look up here, this is one of these. This is the 2-port, but they make a 4-port as well. I think they make a real fancy one too. That's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I think
An
we have.
8-port for $400. It's not too bad.
See, there you go. The Zoom H6 pack portable recorder with interchangeable microphone system and deluxe accessory bundle, which in this case is a pair of crappy headphones and a case and a stand. $389.
Yeah, that's a good price.
Yeah.
You could go with the Scarlett. There's a Scarlett 18i8. That's a 4-port, and that's retailing at $349.
Yeah, so you're looking like you're in the $400 range.
Yeah, and PreSonus, the Scarletts, I'd recommend those. I mean, they're built pretty well. We saw it when we were at Podcast Movement. We saw those mixed pre's, which are really, really nice. This is a little bit, just a smidge over the budget and a little bit under what he's asking for. But that mixed pre 3 is $649. So a little bit over and not quite. He wants 4, and this one's got 3. Those were really nice. They've packed a lot into that. They have a mixed pre 6 as well that I think is more expensive.
Yeah, that's the one that's like close to $1,000.
$1,000. Yeah, those looked really, really, really nice. I had some hardware envy.
Yeah, if you I have updated we've talked about how I have the PreSonus AR12, which occasionally just cuts out the audio as an audio interface. As a mixer, it works great. As a recorder, it works great. It's the whole interface thing that occasionally drives me crazy. The AR8, which has 4 inputs, is, you guessed it, $400. It seems to be. Yeah. It's almost, is it like $100 an XLR? See,
well, it must be. That's a licensing fee or something associated with the XLR input. Yeah, so they got some good options in there.
Well, it's interesting because there's this is a deal. PreSonus Live AR8. So that's the 4-channel with mic cables and a pair of headphones. Wait a minute. Hold on. I got to click on this link because I'm like, that can't be right. They show in the picture 4 mic cables, a pair of headphones. Okay, that's why. And a Rockville condenser microphone. I'm assuming that's not 4, but it does give you a microphone. There's all sorts of bundles out at Amazon. There's one here with a Zoom or it's hilarious because you think it looks cool. It's also much more expensive. Yeah, these are not great. A Samson Q6 microphone. It looks like an SM58. I'm like, oh wait, that could be cool. So what's in a good preamp? Well, that's a great question. What you want is something that I would say a good preamp is one that you don't have to turn up all the way. And if you do have to turn up all the way, he said, looking at his PreSonus, which is just about all the way up, you don't get a lot of hiss. I cannot remember the name of it. Somebody sent me a mixer once. I remember they were made locally in Tennessee, and they were really dirt cheap, and they were cool, and they were somewhat okay made. But the preamp, when you turned it up, you had to turn it up like all the way. And I just remember when I wasn't talking, I could look at my Zoom and see that there was enough hiss that it was actually like registering on the VU meter. And I'm like, oh, that's not good, because you'll have to noise gate that out. And I've heard that Mackie has better preamps than like a Behringer. I know, was it last week? A couple weeks ago when Emily was on and she had some sort of Behringer USB interface, and she was saying that she didn't really like it. And for me, it's a matter of like, for me, if somebody said that for $400, I'd go with the PreSonus just because I get my 4 channels and it's a mixer and a recorder all in one. But there are those that might say, yeah, but the what's the red box? I can never remember the name of that. Scarlett has better preamps. And it's like, okay, but a Scarlett has no, there's no adding bass or treble unless you're going to do it in post.
But if you're going to use an audio interface, you're going to do most of your stuff in post anyways, to be honest, right? Or because you're going to use software control for your mixer.
Yeah.
So, I think you may be better off that way anyway. Yeah. Dave, I like using Guitar Center for some of these because you can actually go in. They carry they used to. They carry the PreSonus. They carry the Scarlett. You can go in some cases, they'll have them plugged in and you can try them out. They're always good about, hey, I want to try this. They'll actually pull it out of the box for you. Yeah. At least they used to. And I guess it depends on the store. But And you can try them right there. So you can put some headphones in, throw a mic in, and see if you can get your local Guitar Center to do it for you.
Yeah. And the good news is you'll probably get Skip or Dude or
Skip,
whoever it gets.
Brandon.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon, can you open up this PreSonus for me?
He's wearing a bowling shirt with giant flaming skulls.
It's better than nerdy podcaster shirts, I'm sure.
Yeah, Dave's cracking on somebody's fashion sitting here in a School of Podcasting shirt.
Yeah, but hey, to each his own.
Yeah, so that's Emily says Skip is a name that needs to get back.
I like Skip.
Because it's a name and a verb. How often can you say that?
My name short for something? Was Skip short for something?
I don't know.
Skipperoo or Skipperoni.
I actually name their child Skip. I don't know.
I don't think so. It must have just maybe that's one of those names that was only a nickname.
Yeah. Did you watch Alex Incorporated?
No. How's that? Are you keeping up with it? How's that going?
It's one episode out.
Okay.
It's the story of startup, and it's okay. It's to a certain extent much more reliant on the children than I thought. And that can really make or break a sitcom really easy because kids are either cute and great actors or they're annoying and you want to punch them in the face. Or just 2 words. What was it? The kid on the Brady Bunch?
The Full House effect.
No, well, yeah, there was cousin. Who was the cousin on the Brady Bunch that just came and ruined it?
Oh,
wait, this is like early before my time.
His name was probably Skip.
Yeah, cousin. Oh, somebody will know.
Chat room will know.
Cousin Oliver.
Oh, there it is.
Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
And many say that was when the show jumped the shark because when you bring in the little, and if you think about it, if there's so many sitcoms that they bring in the cute little kid, like we need ratings and we're out of storylines, bring in a little kid. And I think One Day at a Time did that. I'm really dating myself here.
Day at a time. Yeah. How do you think?
But
go ahead.
Anyway, so I watched it. It's much less podcasting. It just so happens that it's, and which is true at the time. When you go to your wife and say, hey, I've got this really great paying job and I'm working for NPR more or less, and I want to quit my job and start my own podcast company. His wife is a saint. But it is a family comedy. That's the thing you have to kind of keep in mind. You're looking at ABC on 8:30 on Wednesdays. And so it was to me, it was much more about his family life. I didn't expect it to be a podcasting 101. I emailed them and said, hey, if you want to get a video to go viral, have Alex explain how to subscribe to a podcast in the show and give me that clip. And I said, you'll have a billion podcasters going, look at this. I said, they'll never do that. But they did show it was kind of interesting because he did a pitch to Chris Sacca and they actually had Chris Sacca playing Chris Sacca, which was interesting because I saw an interview with Zach. Oh, I forget his last name, Brack something. And he was saying it was interesting because he's the director and the writer and the producer. He's kind of everything. And he was saying he had to direct Chris Sacca on how to play Chris Sacca better because he understands comedy and
right. Yeah.
Cosby brought in a little kid at the end. Yeah. So when in doubt, bring in the little kid. And that's usually when you're like, yeah, we're done. So it'll be interesting to watch. It wasn't horrible. That was the good news. It was just much more friendly, family-ish than I didn't expect it to be edgy either. But there was a lot of the storyline was about his son is into magic and he's really worried that his son's going to get beat up because he's into magic and he looks like a nerd. So that was really almost, it was like 50-50 storyline, 50-50 him getting, starting a podcast company and 50% his son's going to get beat up at school. I was like, all right, well, that's half the fun. We heard all the podcasting stuff. Meanwhile, there's a whole family going on. So, it'll be interesting. I know Startup re-released the first 5 episodes. So why wouldn't you? If people are Googling it, you might as well put it out there and make it easy to find. But it'll be interesting to see. So The other thing, if you were trying to upload a file on Libsyn yesterday on Safari about somewhere between 8 and 10 o'clock and couldn't, that has been fixed. It was not a Libsyn problem. It was an Apple thing. They released an update overnight and it kind of broke Safari and Libsyn talking together, and that has since been remedied. But that made for a fun day of support when like every other ticket is I can't upload anything and nothing's happening.
Everybody's in a panic.
Yeah.
In a full-fledged panic. I can't get it there. No one will be able to hear my podcast. Hey, you mentioned jumping the shark, and I think it got me wondering, like, how as podcasters, what kind of things can we do? When you talk about Hollywood, they run out of things to do, so they add a kid to it. Like, Dave, what kind of things do you think we do where we shoot ourselves in the foot? Like, we get 25 or 30 episodes or a year or two in, and then we, what kind of things do you think are out there that, what is our version of bringing kids on? Is it, let me give you an example. So you've been commercial free for 2 years, and then you decide one day to start doing commercials. Is that a jump the shark moment? Like, do you run the risk of changing your format enough at that point that people are like, this was good? Because think about it. You've had 2 years of listeners, and they listen to you probably because they don't want to hear the commercials. Let's just be honest. Like, they like that part. And then you shift on them and they kind of go, oh, well, I really like this. But now that you got an Audible ad or, something crazy in there, what do you think? What other kind of mistakes do you think we make along those lines? Oh, your audio. Yeah, your audio just died. I saw you trying to cut in on me. I'm like, sweet, I could take advantage of this and just talk. What are those things? Do you think?
Am I back yet?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, yeah. Because at least to let me know, because there was a weird little like glit, and I was like, I bet that was my audio going away.
Yeah. I need a hand signal for you, like, and then you can just reset it while I'm talking, and then
that's it. I know for me, rebranding in some cases is I tried to do that to kind of get some steam back, and I had a custom theme song invented. Like, that was somehow going to get me more listeners. I don't know what I was thinking. I redid the website, and in the end, I was just like, yeah, I'm out of gas on this one. So maybe that's part of it. When you start missing episodes, that might be a sign that you're slowly, I don't know if it's jumping the shark, it's just running out of gas.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
What about when you run out of content? Like, you're doing this thing for 5 years and you just kind of like, we've talked about everything there is to be talked about.
Yeah.
And you just kind of, you get to that phase and you start making, and these things are just kind of coming to mind. We have some potentials. We've started, 2 things on Home Gadget Geeks. One is we started talking in our post show. We've kind of made it exclusively crypto conversation. And that's a pretty like it or not like it kind of thing. And so for the tech guys, we were doing it in the show. And what's funny is I got feedback both ways. Oh, I love when you guys talk about crypto. Do more, right? And I got some, oh, I hate when you do that. Would you please stop? That's not a home gadget, right? Type deal. So I got it both ways. So we moved it to the post show. Most recently, we've been doing like beer and wine picks in the pre-show. And that's doesn't go out through the RSS feed or anything like that. But for those folks that are coming live, that's a new thing. Like, it's like, so I guess sometimes you have to test that and see how it's going. Kim jumped in here. Kim, good to see you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Dave mentioned last week that
Hold on a
Lane.
second. Tap
We're
your microphone.
I think, I'm not sure which one we're coming in on. Yeah, we're on your headset. Bring that mic.
Okay, we'll go to the headset.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
All right. Dave last week mentioned that Lame and the other
Fraunhofer.
there, thank you,
Fraunhofer.
are now virtually the same. And I went to my Amazon or to my Audacity and realized that I am far behind on the update. So my question is, does the update give me the updated Lame encoder, or do I need to go find that separately?
I would think you'd need to find it separately because that's
Okay.
it's a whole separate thing.
On Audacity? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you probably have to. They've made it easier to install. I just did a new instance of Audacity, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I think if you click on that button, it directs you to where you get it from, and then that installer puts it in a folder for you. So the process is a lot easier than it used to be if you've been using Audacity for 5 or 6 years, like I have.
I have been, and I
Yeah.
haven't updated since 1.9 point something.
Yeah,
So-
the UI looks a little bit different. So I mean, everything's still in the same place. It's more blocky and it's kind of updated for kind of the Windows look and some of those things. So
Okay.
you'll see a little bit of a difference.
All right. Where do I find a lame encoder then?
No, it'll direct you to it. So if you go to the preferences, let me open up. Let's just
Well,
open
plus,
up.
I think it's on the Audacity.
It is. Yeah. If you
Get to it.
yeah, if you go to what is the I should know this.
AudacityTeam.org is their website. And
If you go to preferences, right, and then there's a it's a lot harder to do this live than when you're just
I'm going to download. I'm on their
Library.
website.
Libraries is where you want to go. So preferences and then libraries, and it'll say MP3 library, and there's a little button that says locate, and it'll just at that point, if you have it somewhere, you can find it. And then there's a little right below it. It says lame MP3 library download. And if you click on that, it will take you to the Audacity, basically the site where you need to download it. So it's super easy, Kim.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you bet that's it. You're going to let us off that easy?
Today, yes. It's,
Okay.
It's a holiday weekend.
it's
so
Easter.
I'm going easy on you guys.
Good seeing you, Kim.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for jumping in.
We'll put a link to this out in the chat room and in the show notes.
So you said that Lame and Fraunhofer are basically the same?
No, I did not say that.
All right.
I'm going to say, let me clarify that. Because I did not say that. I played a MP3 file that was exported in, I took a WAV file, converted it to, I think, 64 mono in iTunes using Fraunhofer, took the exact same WAV file, converted it to 64 mono using Hindenburg, which turns out is using the Lame encoder, and as is Auphonic, which I was Auphonic desktop. And so I was like, well, that's interesting because, for years I've been telling people, it's, well, it is if you're using really stupid settings like 32 kilobits per second mono. It's horrendous, as is Fraunhofer at that point. It sounds like you're underwater. So I played them back to back and went, okay, I will say that the Fraunhofer is that much better, but that's because I'm sitting in a quiet room I'm smushing my headphones into my head, and maybe the upper end is just and that's because I'm really listening for it. But if somebody just said, if I'm in, I don't know, outside, if I'm downstairs in front of a stereo, I'm probably not going to notice a difference. And that really surprised me because, we've been saying that for years. And I was like, well, let's see if that's still true. And I was really surprised. And I don't know that I did an example at 128. So it might be a case at 128 stereo. Maybe it's a little better. But from what I was doing, I was like, I really expected to play the Lame one and go, oh yeah, that's worse. And instead I was like, wait a minute. Which one is which again? And that's the other thing. When you export those, be sure to label them so that you know which one so like all mine were like I said, Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow. So it was like Mary 64 mono Lame, and then Mary 64 mono Fraunhofer, that kind of thing. So I knew what it was. And the other one I thought was interesting, and I guess it depends on your music. And I had some people really comment on that episode, is I took this little jingle thing that had all these cool echoey kind of spacious kind of stereo effects, and without telling anybody, it was like la da 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 na 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 na. Well, the second one, I took that file again as a WAV file, converted it to mono, and just had it switch in the middle of the song. And I said, "Did you hear the difference?" And I'd be like, "I know, I did not hear the difference." I'm like, so maybe stereo. Now, obviously, music is always going to sound different because most of it, especially if you're listening to like stuff from the 60s where they were like, stereo, let's put the drums on the right and the voices in the left. And it was like, it was really
dumb. Which was dumb.
Yeah. It was really
that was really dumb.
Yeah. Like, listen, Ringo's in the other room. Great. That doesn't make okay.
No, doesn't make for good listening.
So because I'm just and that came from working at Libsyn. People are always like, well, because I'll explain that 64 mono is roughly a half a meg a minute, 128 stereo is roughly a meg a minute, and that's usually the two formats. I know some people use 96 mono. I actually don't hear a whole lot of difference between 64 mono and 96 mono. But again, and that's why I always tell people, this is how you do your own test. Record yourself saying Mary Had a Little Lamb, throw in some music if you want, and then just go to your whatever program you're using and go export 64 mono, boom, label that, export, same file. So you're starting from the same place. And I just did that and put it into a file. And then I exported that file at something ridiculous like 192, just so it was capturing all the nuances that I could without making it too silly. But I have, it must be GarageBand. There's some program out there that has to have a default of 192 and 256, which is about 1.5 megs a minute and close to 2. And you'll have people that will upload a single file. They have a 50 meg plan and they're like, how can I be out of room? I've only uploaded one file. Well, you're exporting at 256 stereo. Your file is, 39 megs. And now you're trying to upload another one that's, 37. I'm like, you're out of space. How could that be? And that's understood. So I kind of made that episode for that, so I can point people to that. And what I've been doing is I have an Overcast account. One of the things I really like about Overcast is you can send a link to people at a time code. So I can say, I actually did an episode where I talked about, and you can hear the different versions and then send them that and they click on it. It goes right to that thing where I'm like, here's what 64 sounds like. Here's what 128 sounds like. So that's basically what it was based on. I got tired of telling people to export and vote with your ears. I'm like, well, I'm just going to do that for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I always felt like Lame felt squishy to me. Like just wasn't as crisp and clear. And I haven't done a side-by-side test in a long time. I'm using the web version of Auphonic, and that's just nails. Like I don't know why I ever did anything else. Like it's so nails. You upload it, boom, it's done. If you're doing a lot, you probably want to buy the desktop version. And that sometimes in the post show work, I'll run it. I'll just run it through Audacity's Lame. I don't care. It's fine. It's good enough. But yeah, I always felt Lame was a little squishy. I remember, man, it was like 6 years ago. We used to argue about this stuff a lot. And there was folks adamant, like, you cannot use Lame. Like,
are you crazy?
One of them, who used to be a regular contributor here on the show, who was very adamant that Lame was not what you could use.
Yeah, and I really expected, because I remember, like, again, 2007-ish, comparing them and going, oh yeah, there's a difference. And so somewhere over the last 10 years, Lame has got their act together. And I've always wondered now that Fraunhofer is not
protected, is I think what we're supposed to say.
Yeah, that why other companies just don't integrate it. But on the other hand, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And who knows? I need to ask the next time I see the guy from Hindenburg. He's awesome. The main engineer there is at the trade shows, and now he hates MP3s. Period. He thinks we should all be using Ogg Vorbis.
Yep.
And he's like, it's so much better. And but why do you keep telling people to use MP3s? And I'm like, because it's compatible with all the players out there.
I do think the podcasting industry is going to need to change at some point. I can't see us being long-term MP3. I think there's so many better audio formats that have come along, and yeah, they're a little bit bigger. They don't compress as well. They're getting better at that, but they don't compress as well. But the audio quality is so much better, and bandwidth is not the issue it used to be. It still is an issue. Don't get me wrong. It is an issue, and there are some spots where it's capped. I'm capped now. when I used to say this on my tech show all the time, I'd be like, bandwidth doesn't matter because and my Australian friends or friends in the UK would remind me that, hey, we're capped over here. Like you can't just say those kinds of things. And now that I'm been imposed on a 1 terabyte cap, I have to start thinking about being judicious about everything I do has big files associated with it. So I have to think judiciously about my space. But from a podcaster's perspective, I do think the industry as a whole needs to rethink its MP3 stance, because we're the last ones. Like we're the last group of people to be using MP3, Dave. There's really no other professional music or spoken word group that is still using MP3 in this format.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see if I'm going to get a data cap, because it dawned on me that I've switched to Hulu. We've talked about that. But I still have my very, very, very basic cable. I need to call them up and cut it. And I notice I do not have a data cap, and I will not be surprised if when I cut the cable, they take my internet and put a cap on it, because I'll be interested. They seem to get you coming and going. Question here in the chat room. Illiquity says, when you're interviewing people at an expo or a conference, does it make a difference between regular quality or high quality MP3? My advice is when you're recording, always record in WAV format, or if you're on a Mac, AAC. If you're using a portable recorder, it's always, you want to record in the best format you can, because you want to capture, if we go back to remember the days when you would rate cameras in megapixels? It was like, this is a 3 megapixel. And the more megapixels, it seemed like it was the better the picture. Well, same thing. The better the quality you capture, it's just, that's what you're starting with. So if you're starting with a low grade MP3 and now you're going to edit it, and then when you export it again, it's going to get compressed again. Now you're compressing something that's already compressed, and you have a chance of things not sounding great. So I always try to record in the best format I can, knowing that, especially with WAV files, they take up a huge amount of room. So that's why I have like the biggest, I look at my recorder, I get the biggest little SD card I can. And then usually at a conference, one of the things I do at night is I will try it with whatever I have to get the files off that SD card and throw them in the cloud, so I can then take them off the card and I'm ready for day 2. Jim, you do a lot of recording on the road.
Yeah. There's a question in the chat room about that, recording and the quality. I think you record in the best quality you absolutely can every single time. So when you're recording, get as high quality as you can. It doesn't matter how big the files are. Now that would differ if you're trying to do it on a small voice recorder or something like that, where your storage is limited, but always record best possible quality. It's always easier to downgrade. You can never upgrade. Like, you can't take lower quality audio and make it, there's tricks you can do to try and make it sound better, but it's really, really difficult, right? So regardless of the setting, regardless of whether you're in a conference or outdoors or you're in your studio, always record with the greatest quality you can afford or get your hands on, or that the equipment will handle. Then save that. That's for me, that's the golden recording, because from that you can do so many more things with the audio if you need to. It's a lot easier to fix bad audio if it's got all the bits in it than if you're trying, like you said, if you have an MP3 and it's already been compressed and the 2 spectrums have been cut off of it. It's really hard for software to fix that if it's in an MP3. So, or whatever, lower, even in lower quality. So I always say, get the highest quality you can. Mike Howard, who's in the chat room, he and I, back when we started podcasting, we keep multiple versions of our audio, and I even keep multiple versions of my video. So I keep the raw, boom. I always keep that unedited raw. It stays with me, right? And then I'll scrunch that down to a smaller version for the video side that I upload to YouTube. I keep that one. And then I'm going to use Handbrake, and I'm going to convert it to a small and a large format for my listeners who watch video via RSS, right? Through a player. Audio is the same way. Download the raw version from YouTube, strip out the audio. I keep that in an AIFF, AIFF lossless, Apple lossless format. That's what I chose to do. Then I keep my MP3 versions as I make them. So yeah, you're keeping 4 versions, and it's a little bit of space to keep it done, but record in the highest possible quality that you can to start with every time.
Yeah, and I always keep the raw version. So that for some reason I screw things up, I can always go back to where I started. I will be angry and upset because I just screwed something up and accidentally deleted half the interview or something like that. But I always keep that raw one that if I want to, I can always go back and start from that. And then once it's done and it's published for me, I delete everything in between. I keep the raw one so I can always go back to square one, and I keep the finished one. But all the edited versions, like I'll have, if I have a interview that's done in stereo where I'm in one side and they're in the other, so I can mute things, I will keep that. And then maybe I later save that to edited mono. Okay, well, I don't really need the stereo version anymore because I have the raw version. So I'll get rid of the stereo version. And in the end, it's kind of like when people worry about their storage with their media host and they look at their pictures. Your picture takes up this much room and you have this much space. And so same thing, an MP3 file versus a WAV file is going to take up just a little bit of room. I forget who said in the chat room, they asked about M4A files.
That's Ross.
Ross did. And I always thought this, I'm not positive of this. I think Apple invented M4A. And the one place it doesn't play is on your, I call this the iTunes listing, kind of that web-based version of iTunes. You can click on play and it just spins forever. So M4A is not a great format.
But it will play in most cases, right? M4A will play.
I think if you subscribe to the show and go to the desktop version, yeah, it'll play there. And I believe it plays in the podcast app, but it does not play. Like if you do a search and you get that web-based version, it's like, yeah, that's not going to work, which I just think is hilarious because M4A, I think, was invented by, like, I know for a while, yeah, because that's the one that has chapters in it. And Apple invented chapters and then later quit supporting them, which I thought was hilarious. Like, thanks, Apple. Another question from the chat room. What's a good, easy to use WordPress child theme for podcasters? The theme that I'm really liking right now, it's not a child theme. If you go to Ask the Podcast Coach at the bottom, you'll see where it says Generate Press, which is not my affiliate link now that I looked at it. If you go to if you go to schoolofpodcasting.com/generate press, I love it, especially if you have multiple websites, because it's dirt cheap. It's like, I think it's $39 a year for unlimited websites. And what I like about it is I can say, I need the ability to change my colors or to do this. So you can kind of go in and pick what features you want and what features you don't want, you don't turn on, so it doesn't clutter up your interface. So it's and they have a free version if you want to play with it, but it's super simple. It's one of those where I was like, I don't need, and I like Divi too, for the record, but I just like this because it was like, I just need my website to do this, that, and that. I don't need it to do the special. My favorite thing now is you go to a website and everybody has the thing where they'll have numbers and they'll have this circle that starts to fill in. You know, it's like 98% of people love my podcast, 417 positive reviews. And then you see these circles spinning and I'm like, that's a cool effect, but I'm like, I can live without that. And I'm sure there's a plugin I could find to make that, but that's what I've been. Jim, do you have any favorite themes in WordPress?
You know, I've used one theme for 6 years.
Forever. That's it.
Yeah. So, and it's not, I don't do parent child. I just lay down the theme and I keep it pretty simple, Dave, to be honest. And I've even, with my themes in the past, I try to make very few changes as possible. So it's, if you head out to theaverageguy.tv, I think it's called Meso. You know, I should know the name of this thing. I've used it. So Meso columns, I think is what it's called. Yeah, Meso column. And it's I don't even think there's a paid version of it anymore. I just continue to use it. It doesn't get very many updates, but it allows me to do multiple, because I have multiple podcasts. It allows me to do multiple columns and podcasts, and then those columns can be defined by the number of posts. So if I have 3, that kind of restricts the size, and so I can create a newspaper-like format for podcasts in general. So I could on the fly add more podcasts and move them around or whatever. And so it handles, I think it handles podcasting really well. The one drawback is I can't get a player on the front page using that format. It won't display the player.
Hmm.
So I put a video jukebox, or I put an audio jukebox on it in case people come to the site. I've given them something to click. The ideal place would be where it would be on the front page. The theme won't let me do. You have to click in one to get to the player. So that's the one major drawback there. I imagine I could probably hack that if I found somebody who knew, who knew the code to be able to do that. But no, I like my format, so I don't mess around very much with WordPress themes.
Well, I was looking at Jim Harold's site, jimharold.com. He's a guy all about paranormal stuff. And I go down, there's nothing at the bottom of his site that shows what the theme is. And so this is a fun little tool, if you ever wonder. WP Theme Detector. And I'm going to put in jimharold.com, and this could blow up in my face. So the joys of live.
A nice podcasting with you, Dave. We'll see you tomorrow.
And it's thinking about it, it's processing, but it also lets you know what plugins they're using, which is kind of cool. I've always wondered like how they do this security wise, but I guess it's, there's some sort of code they can look at. It's still processing, because if somebody has a custom theme, if they had somebody really customize it, nope, he's using the new Pro theme from StudioPress, which you can find at schoolofpodcasting.com/StudioPress. And this is one of the top 100 WordPress themes. Its current position is number 53 as of March 31st, 2018. This theme has been detected on 0.12 of our searches. 5 out of every 10,000 sites we analyze use the News Pros theme. So he's using Genesis, the Genesis framework. He also uses Genesis tabs, Google Analytics, and I think that's it. Yeah. So if you ever see somebody's theme, you're like, oh man, I wonder what they're using. WP Theme Detector is a pretty handy little tool to have in your back pocket.
Kim's breakfast is going to burn. You should probably read the our awesome subscribers.
Our awesome subscribers. All right, our awesome subscribers. Next month we'll read everybody. That will be next week. But of course, we have Greg from DebtShepherd.com. We have Jonathan Bloom from. Oh, I have a update on this, by the way. Jonathan is from WeeklyAwesome.com. The one and only Glenn the Geek Hebert from HorseRadioNetwork.com. Josh Rivers from PodcastingExperiments.com. Max Trescott from AviationNewsTalk.com. And Shane from Spybrary. But I need to fix Doug from last week I said Becoming Limitless. The show is Become Limitless, and he's at becomelimitless.org. And it's an interesting podcast. I actually subscribe to it on the Apple Podcast app because he's using the series format. And Doug wants to lift 1,000 pounds, like 300 bench press, 400 deadlift, and 8 million squat kind of. And it just made me hurt just thinking about it. But he was very polite. Said, "He, just so you know, it's not becoming limitless. It's become
limitless, because details matter." I'm turning 50 here in May. And,
oh boy!
So for my 50th, around my 50th birthday, I'm going to do, because it's a 5 theme month for me. It happens to be the 5th month, right? So it's 5 and 50, and I'm doing all these halves of things. It's going to be kind of fun. But one of the things I'm going to do, he talked about doing 1,000 pounds. I'm going to do 500 push-ups one day during my 50th birthday month. So
in one sitting?
No, heck no. That's not
like that will kill you. It's like,
no, that's not possible. I'll do them in an hour and some change. So it also
hurt just thinking about it.
I'm going to combine it with a 5-mile walk. I wanted to run, but I have a calf tear at the moment. It's not feeling good. So I'm going to do a 5-mile walk, and every quarter I'm going to do 25 push-ups. So that'll give me 500 push-ups, 5 miles. Again, all these 5s for 50. I'm trying to celebrate 50 with health. So I've been doing these.
There you go. When's your birthday?
May 26th. We'll be a Saturday. We'll be here.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Awesome.
So I applaud Doug for being healthy. We need to, as we get older, it's easy to, and you've been wrestling with this yourself as you've been trying to just get more activity and that final 10 pounds and all those things that we do. It's hard work.
It is. And I've been, the one tool as we turn into a health show.
Hey, we can do anything we want. This is Ask the Podcast Coach.
I used to have a Total Gym. I had it in my sister's basement, and I could not get the smell of my sister's basement out of the thing. And so I happened to walk into Play It Again Sports, and there was one normally like $350 for $130. And I'm like, so, and it was like brand new. I was like, sold. So that is now the fun thing is I have to get rid of I bought a manual treadmill, so there's no motor. And the whole thing is it's quieter, and it's actually more, it'll burn more calories because you're not, you're actually making it go. I hate it. I don't know. I can't explain why. I do not like it. I like motorized treadmills, and so it's got to go. And then the Total Gym will take its place. Somebody, and Ross has already answered them. Yeah, I'm not using a BP40. I'm using an RE320, and I don't know why. I got to reposition my mic. I keep hearing plosives in my head today. So,
well, you Dave, you talk about. Let's go back to the fitness conversation for a second, because I think it does relate to podcasting. Or let me force it to relate. Let me force it to relate to podcasting.
No.
As podcasters, we do a lot of sitting, right? You're sitting, I'm sitting. We've moved to more of a stand-up, culture where stand-up desks are getting more popular and people are standing. But it changes your posture in podcasting. And so if you're a podcaster and you're considering standing, which by the way is awesome, I think you should. When I move, I'm moving here in the next year or so. The next studio will be a stand-up studio, so it's going to be one of those where I'm gonna kind of stand. But you just be aware your posture changes, and you're going to have a little bit less endurance too. It's stand for 2 hours. Like, we're here for 2 hours. That's, you and I do this for 2 hours, whether we like it or not. Stand for 2 hours is a lot different than sitting for 2 hours on your body. And what you start to do is shift, when you're standing, right? You start shifting around. That's different visually. So just be aware as you go to these standing modes. It's a little bit different.
But no, podcasting and weight loss are very much similar, because they both are, you have to focus on them daily. If you want to grow your audience, you have to be consistent and you have to be dedicated, because I'm amazed at, I can lose 2 pounds over a couple weeks and wipe those out in one day. Just one, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to McDonald's. I've been a good boy. I deserve it. Whatever.
I deserve it.
And then you step on the scale and you're like, wait, it was only a Big Mac. How can that? Yeah,
I know.
So it is one of those things. I think about that because especially the older you get, man, weight loss
it's hard. It's hard. Deserving is the death of all things. Like, that's this, we justify that like, oh, I deserve this thing. And no, you really don't. You don't.
Well, it's funny because I was testing the Voxnest, formerly known as Spreaker, Dynamo, and I put it on Weekly Web Tools because that show is pretty much dead. I actually did a see you buy last episode, and I put out another episode just to see what would happen. And that was interesting because I used to get, I don't know, somewhere between 300 and 400 downloads an episode. And after my see you buy, 51, which I'm not upset. I told everybody, I don't think I'm coming back. If I do, I will let you know. I will only come back if I find something cool to talk about. And I did, but it was interesting to see. I need to figure out how long I've been gone. I think it's like 7 months. And I'm not upset. I expected to have 0. I was actually surprised that many people. The interesting thing is over the days, because that goes into your whole back catalog. You put in a redirect with that. And I have yet to get a single ad. In fact, I'm going to email Rob and go, did I do this right? Because all you do is you can contact Libsyn or you can put it into PowerPress. It's a redirect. So basically it goes over to Voxner. And this is the part I don't get. This is the part I'm really confused on. Because in theory, I can put where the ad comes in the middle. I'm saying pre-roll and post-roll, but I can also put one in the middle. And so I get it. Listener comes over and hits your feed. The feed says, hey, go to Voxnest first. If it plays a file from them, how is it ever going to get to my Lips? It's apparently not playing my Libsyn file. So my question is that going to count as a download in my Libsyn stats? That's the part I'm confused on, because I don't see that making the trip, because normally it goes like with PodTrack. A lot of people put the PodTrack thing in. Why, I don't know, because there's nothing you can get from PodTrack that you can't get from Libsyn or Blueberry, but whatever. And it goes to PodTrack. PodTrack sends it to the Libsyn file. The Libsyn file then gets counted as a download. I don't see how the Dynamo thing works. That's the part that I'm like, but I am interested because I've sent them close to 1,000 downloads now, and I haven't had a single ad.
Yeah, it sounds like something's wrong.
Yeah, and I'm like,
It sounds like something's wrong on that.
because I know when I was using the dynamic ads on Spreaker, I wasn't getting it. You know, every episode didn't have an ad, but eventually I would. You know, I haven't looked, but I think I was up to like $8 after 6 months or something like that of getting my 0.002 cents per download. So I'll have to check that out.
I like what Spreaker's doing there. I made a prediction at the beginning of the year that there would be a company that would figure out how to do advertising right. And it's kind of still messy because, they got Spreaker and Blog Talk Radio and now in VoxNet. And they've got some things to work out, right? They've got some work to do over there. One, if you want to follow that, you should be listening to Spreaker Live Show. And then two, because Rob talks about that on there, you got to kind of get through some of the other content, but he has been talking about that quite a bit on there. But two, I really like where they're going with ad insertion and the way they're doing it and the way they're separating it. I love the concept that for some platforms they've created a separate feed, and that's really confusing as I hear from Rob. That's very confusing for some podcasters because wait, a different feed? Well, yeah, if we're going to send a feed over to Spotify, it can't have ads in it. So that they're taking your file and then they're basically not applying anything to it and pushing it over to Spotify, right? That's part of the terms. That seems weird, but it's great. That's what they should be doing. They're taking care of you. It's a different feed. Yes, it's not your RSS feed that's going over there. It's a separate feed that's going to Spotify, but it's required for Spotify to be able to be a part of it. So I love what they're doing. I think if you're interested in advertising, you got to pay attention to what's happening at Spreaker/VoxNet right now. And I think over the next year, it's all beta form. They're all trying a bunch of different things out. I think they're going to get it right. And so I think by the end of the year, it will be way better than it is now. That dev team at Spreaker moves really fast. I mean, that's they're some of the quickest development. And I know Libsyn and Blueberry move fast too, but Spreaker moves really, really fast. And so these guys are focused on advertising and they're getting it. I think they're going to get it. That's the exciting thing.
I know Todd has hinted that he's coming out with some sort of dynamic ad tool, which, so I think,
that's what should happen, right? This should spur everybody on to be like, okay, where are we going to get the best version? I just think Spreaker's got to jump on everybody. And we've been talking about ad insertion forever, and there's been some naysayers in the business like that'll never work, and this isn't really what people want. And well, guess what? I think it's actually gonna be what people want in the future, and I think Spreaker's gonna probably get it right.
Yeah, they're the first person that has it. Like Dynamo is free, so it's almost free hosting in a way. Where Libsyn has had ad insertion since 2000.
Oh yeah.
But that's Libsyn Pro,
right?
And that's a whole different pay frame. It's not the $20 a month forever. It's you pay a monthly fee and then you actually pay for your bandwidth, because when you change out an ad and you have to go back and restitch it to 300 episodes, that's not a $15 a month kind of
thing. That's a little more server time.
Yeah,
and than folks are willing to pay for. Yeah, there's a lot of technology behind it. We're in exciting times for advertising. I think it's 2018 and 2019 are going to be some really, really good years. If you've given up on advertising and you want to pay attention to it, now would be the time to re-engage. I think there's going to be some really good things coming.
Yeah, I'll be interested. I just want to see if I'm still getting 0.0002 cents a download. That's what I wanted to see, which I'm assuming it is. I don't know where anything has changed, but I think the big thing we need is just advertisers at this point. If there's not something wrong with because I actually went back. I did like the fact that I could say, I don't want this type of thing. And I don't want, like under health, they had like all sorts of different things. I'm like, I don't need this. I don't need that. So I actually went back and said, give me everything. I just want to see an ad, and I want to see how much I get paid for it. And I still haven't got any. So I'll have to email Rob and go, because there isn't much to it. You have a redirect. You ask your host to do that. So like Podbean doesn't do redirects, which I thought was really interesting. But their answer is, hey, we have sponsors. We have our own sponsors. We don't need, so I kind of get that. But but I just thought it was odd that I haven't had one yet. So I'll have to email Rob or somebody like that. And that's the other thing I thought was interesting. Somebody who, Craig in the chat room, Todd's been a naysayer since the beginning. So if Blueberry gets on board, that says something. Yeah. Because I'm with Todd. I'm like, I don't think, at least at this point, with such a low payment, and it's not niche, it's progressive, it's Home Depot. You know, the money isn't there for the average 400 downloads an episode podcaster kind of person. It just doesn't seem to make sense. So,
well, but as the podcasting market consolidates, and it will, I think we're in that boom still where everybody's doing it, and there's a ton of podcasts, and the market will thin out. If you're a podcaster now and you're a little bit stressed because your numbers aren't there, if you can hang on and really create some great content, people are going to start dropping. I think we're already starting to see some of the signs of that in the total numbers. Podcasting is just a hard thing to do, and it's super sexy right now, so everybody wants to do it. It will eventually lose that steam and momentum, and then the market will consolidate. It happens in every single market. This is a universal thing that happens all the time, and the market will consolidate, and the bigger podcasts will get bigger, and everybody else will drop out. And so when they do that, by the way, you'll pick up people who were listening to other things because they want to continue to listen. They just don't have anything to listen to because their podcast quit. And so I think we'll get to a spot, if you can get some of those kinds of numbers, it will make sense for that kind of advertising to kick in. Like, I don't think anybody's still getting it right, Dave. It is a really hard thing to do, this kind of, if you want to be in this kind of space with this kind of advertising. But we're making good steps. I think we're getting closer.
Nothing more fun than having your own words quoted back to you. Ross in the chat room said, you said this in November for my 2018 predictions. 2018 is the year someone figures out how to get monetization right for the SMB / hobby podcaster / live streamer like Google dominated in the ad space in the early 2000s. This company will grow to dominate this segment.
Yeah, I did say that, and I still believe it.
Dun dun dun.
That's an easy prediction. It's not. That's not Nostradamus in there, but I do think we'll see some. We're making some good progress, and I think Spreaker's making some, or Foxnet is making some noise in this space.
You were talking about Anchor? No,
well, they were my number 2 choice.
Right,
Anchor was my number 2 choice.
That's funny.
Oh, that's funny. Ross, thanks for looking at it. Every year, Ross does a really nice job of getting predictions from, I don't know, Ross, 80, 100 podcasters around. He kind of does that and puts that together for some year-end work. So Ross is really good at really helping us advertise and push live streaming forward is a format that would work for a lot of people. So Ross works harder than any other podcaster I know, to be honest. No offense, Dave, but Ross is out there working it all the time. So thanks for your work, Ross. I appreciate it.
The hardest working man in podcasting.
He's that guy knows how to use social media, man. If you're a podcaster and you kind of want to see how to optimize it, Ross is you should be watching what Ross is doing. He's doing a lot of great work. Harry Durant also amazing at this. He posts and reposts and brings it back. And I mean, if you want to see a model for how you should advertise on Twitter or on Facebook or in the social channels, you got to follow Harry. Harry's doing some great work. We can learn a lot from Harry.
Well, we could talk about Twitter in the post show. That's a whole other ball of worms now, where you can't repost like things like Tweet Jukebox. I'm like, I guess I'll cancel my subscription.
No, don't. There's some ways around it, but we can talk about it in the post show.
But I want to thanks to the chat room. Thanks for everybody for showing up. We're here every Saturday morning at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, and I'm laughing because I've somehow got into a screen that I can't see how much there is, how much time is left on the music. I'm like, wait a minute, I need to know.
Can't you tell? We played this music so much, Dave. Can't you tell by the music?
But Jim, what's coming up? You have 48 seconds to tell me, actually 30 seconds to tell me what's coming up on the AverageGuy.tv.
Nice. We'll do it really fast. We just got done with another crypto show. I know that's a huge surprise, but we talked about some really cool stuff besides the currency side of it. So that, and next week, our big spring barbecue show is up. So if you're into barbecue tech gear, you want to join us, theaverageguy.tv/live.
And at the School of Podcasting, we're going to be talking about ego and staying in your lane. With Eric K. Johnson will be popping in on that one. But we're here every Saturday. Stick around for some post show every Saturday. AskThePodcastCoach.com/live. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again real soon.